All right, so today we're going to be looking at some pretty intense predictions for 2025.
Oh, yeah.
We're doing a deep dive into the forecasts of Lorenzo,
Mm-hmm.
an astrologer and geopolitical analyst
Right.
known for his blunt accuracy.
Yes.
He doesn't sugarcoat anything.
No.
And he's looking at the Ukraine war, Russia, NATO, and the whole global power structure.
Whole thing.
But what makes this even more fascinating is how Lorenzo blends astrology and geopolitics,
Oh, wow.
using planetary movements to pinpoint specific time frames and events.
Interesting.
So it's not just like general predictions.
Right.
It's like, this is going to happen at this time.
Yeah.
So,
I'm intrigued.
yeah.
What's really intriguing is that Lorenzo doesn't shy away from uncomfortable truths.
No, he does not.
He presents his insights directly without any softening.
Nope.
It might be unsettling, but understanding these potential scenarios can be crucial.
Absolutely crucial.
Yeah.
Like a reality check.
Yeah.
So Lorenzo's predictions for 2025 are like watching a geopolitical earthquake unfold.
Okay.
He's warning about major power shifts, betrayals, and a complete reshaping of global alliances.
Wow.
We're starting with the peace talks happening right now in February 2025 between the U.S. and Russia,
Okay.
aiming for a peace deal in Ukraine.
Right.
On the surface, peace talks sound positive,
Sure.
but there's a catch. Ukraine is excluded from these initial discussions.
Oh.
Lorenzo sees this as a huge red flag,
Uh-oh.
a sign that something's amiss.
Interesting.
This exclusion is already creating friction,
I bet.
particularly with European allies,
Right.
who are concerned that the U.S. might make agreements that compromise Ukraine's sovereignty.
Makes sense.
Lorenzo points to specific astrological alignments during this period.
Okay.
Pluto in Aquarius, Mars retrograde in Cancer,
Mm-hmm.
and Jupiter turning direct in Gemini.
Oh.
These, he says, suggest hidden agendas, power struggles, and a potential for deceptive diplomacy.
So maybe these talks aren't about genuine peace,
Exactly.
but more about strategic positioning.
That's Lorenzo's interpretation.
Yeah.
He's particularly worried about Neptune in Pisces, sextile Pluto in Aquarius,
Mm-hmm.
an aspect he believes indicates a deceptive peace,
Oh, wow.
where agreements could ultimately harm Ukraine.
Not good.
Not good.
No.
Lorenzo also highlights the possibility of a key EU country,
Okay.
perhaps Germany or France,
Hmm.
withdrawing its support for Ukraine.
Oh.
This potential betrayal is concerning.
Yes, very.
He connects this concern to the astrological influence of Saturn in Pisces sextile Uranus in Taurus,
Okay.
suggesting economic and military disruptions that could weaken European resolve.
So if a major European power backs out, what does that mean for Ukraine on the ground?
Lorenzo predicts rapid territorial losses for Ukraine
Oh.
and a significant blow to their military morale.
Wow.
They'd be left vulnerable facing a stronger adversary with diminishing support.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah.
So as we move into May and June, Lorenzo sees the war reaching a breaking point.
Things don't seem to be improving.
No.
Why does he believe this is such a critical period?
The planetary alignments become more intense.
Okay.
Jupiter square Saturn and Jupiter square Neptune suggest a dangerous moment for a NATO country,
Oh.
potentially facing direct Russian provocation.
So are we talking about a full-blown war between NATO and Russia?
Not necessarily a full-scale war,
Okay.
but a heightened risk of conflict.
Right.
It could be anything from cyber warfare to border incidents or airspace violations,
Got it.
all meant to test the NATO's resolve
Mm-hmm.
and potentially drag them into a more direct confrontation.
And this is happening while Ukraine is already weakened
Yeah.
and potentially betrayed by an ally.
What a difficult situation.
Exactly.
A recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
A perfect storm brewing in those months.
Then in July and August, Lorenzo predicts the biggest geopolitical shift of 2025,
Okay.
the exposure of a secret deal between the U.S. and Russia.
This sounds explosive.
Yeah,
What kind of secret deal are we talking about?
something that would change the entire landscape.
Wow.
Lorenzo points to Uranus entering Gemini, Saturn, and Neptune retrograde in Aries.
Mm-hmm.
And Uranus sextile Neptune.
Oh.
These alignments suggest shocking revelations, unpredictable events, and potential cyber attacks that could further destabilize the situation.
So what could this secret deal entail?
Lorenzo predicts it could range from a secret agreement on Ukrainian territorial concessions
Okay.
to a backroom deal that undermines NATO's unity.
So basically a bombshell
Yeah,
that exposes the true motives of the major players.
exactly.
And forces a dramatic shift in the global power balance.
This is intense.
Yeah.
It seems like things escalate even further in September and October.
Oh, no.
Lorenzo uses the word unthinkable
Really?
to describe what might happen during these months.
I'm a little scared.
I know.
Those months are marked by intense astrological events,
Okay.
solar and lunar eclipses, and Jupiter squaring Chiron.
Uh-oh.
Lorenzo believes this creates a volatile landscape
Right.
ripe for conflict and betrayal, where a military confrontation between NATO and Russia becomes a real possibility.
Are we talking about a potential war between superpowers?
It's definitely on the table, according to Lorenzo's predictions.
Wow.
He envisions a scenario where a key political figure falls from power,
Oh,
triggering a chain reaction of events that could quickly spiral out of control.
this is a lot to process.
It is.
We're discussing a potential escalation that could lead to a global conflict with unimaginable consequences.
And remember, all of this is unfolding against a backdrop of intense planetary alignments.
Right.
These eclipses and Jupiter squaring Chiron Lorenzo associates them with deep wounds, betrayals, and power struggles playing out on the world stage.
It feels like we're walking on eggshells,
Yeah.
waiting for something to break.
Definitely a tense atmosphere. Yeah, it's a tense atmosphere for sure, and it gets even more complicated when we look at Lorenzo's predictions for the potential outcomes of this war.
Okay.
He lays out a few different scenarios.
Okay.
One possibility is a fake peace,
Fake peace.
where Ukraine is pressured to concede territory in a deal that benefits Russia.
So a negotiated settlement that favors one side heavily.
Right.
What would that mean for Ukraine in the long run?
It would leave Ukraine deeply wounded and potentially set the stage for future conflicts.
Oh, wow.
Think of it as a ceasefire with unresolved tensions simmering beneath the surface.
Okay.
Lorenzo sees this as the most likely outcome, particularly given the astrological influences later in 2025.
Right.
Jupiter trine Saturn retrograde Neptune trine Lilith and Jupiter retrograde square Chiron.
Okay.
These aspects suggest a deceptive peace where hidden agendas and unresolved issues could easily reignite instability.
That's a sobering thought. Are there other potential outcomes that Lorenzo sees?
Another scenario is a NATO-Russia standoff.
Standoff.
Imagine the two sides reaching a point of military confrontation but stopping short of all-out war.
Okay.
This could involve a limited exchange of fire, a cyber attack, or some kind of provocation that brings both sides to the brink.
That sounds almost as terrifying as a full-blown war.
It is pretty scary.
The potential for miscalculation or a misstep leading to a larger conflict seems incredibly high.
Exactly, and the global consequences of such a standoff would be immense.
Yeah.
Think about the potential for economic collapse, the breakdown of international institutions, and a descent into a new Cold War with even higher stakes than before.
Oh, wow.
It's a chilling possibility.
And Lorenzo's third and perhaps most frightening scenario.
He calls it total war expansion.
Total war expansion.
While he doesn't consider it the most likely outcome, it's a possibility given the volatile astrological influences we're seeing throughout 2025.
So we're talking about the conflict spreading beyond Ukraine's borders.
Yes.
And potentially pulling other countries in.
Potentially.
That's a truly alarming thought.
It is. Lorenzo mentions the possibility of other Eastern European countries getting involved.
Okay.
Perhaps through a new military alliance or some other unexpected turn of events.
He also specifically mentions China and Turkey as potential wildcards in all of this.
He does.
Why does he single those two countries out?
He sees China potentially offering more open assistance to Russia, providing military and economic support that could significantly shift the balance of power.
And Turkey.
Turkey, on the other hand, could play a more ambiguous role,
Okay.
potentially exploiting the situation to their advantage and making deals with both sides.
Multiple conflicts erupting simultaneously would be a nightmare scenario.
Oh, it would be a nightmare.
Stretching NATO's resources thin and leading to a global crisis that would be incredibly difficult to contain.
Incredibly difficult.
The danger is real. Lorenzo's warning us about a world where the old rules no longer apply.
Right.
A world where alliances are fluid and the stability we've taken for granted crumbles under the weight of conflicting interests and escalating tensions.
It's scary stuff.
And all of this is happening against the backdrop of a global economy that's already on shaky ground.
Oh yeah, don't forget about that.
It's a lot to grapple with.
It is. Lorenzo predicts another energy crisis.
Another one.
Surging food prices and skyrocketing NATO spending as the war continues. This will likely lead to global inflation, supply chain disruptions, and a weakening of economies worldwide.
So it's not just about military conflict.
No, it's not.
It's about the potential for economic collapse and social unrest on a scale we haven't seen in decades.
Exactly. Those are very real impacts on people's lives. These aren't just abstract concepts.
It's a grim picture.
Lorenzo's predictions are sobering, but he's urging us to see them as a wake-up call.
Okay.
It's a chance to prepare for the challenges ahead and to make choices that could potentially mitigate the worst outcomes.
It's a lot to take in. We've gone from peace talks and diplomacy to potential betrayals, escalations, and the possibility of a global war that could fundamentally reshape the world. It feels heavy.
It's a stark reality check, but that's Lorenzo's style.
Right.
He doesn't sugarcoat things.
No.
He wants to present the unfiltered truth, as difficult as it might be to hear.
I can appreciate that.
He believes that facing these possibilities head-on is the first step to navigating them successfully.
So what's the takeaway for our listeners? What can they do in the face of these predictions?
Lorenzo's message is clear. 2025 is the year of reckoning.
Okay.
The choices we make, both individually and collectively, will have profound consequences.
So don't just bury your head in the sand and hope it all goes away.
Exactly. It's not about panicking.
Right.
It's about acknowledging the potential risks and taking steps to mitigate them.
Okay.
Whether that's diversifying your investments, thinking about essential supplies, or simply staying informed about current events, there are things we can all do to navigate these potentially turbulent times.
And perhaps most importantly, engaging in constructive dialogue.
Yes.
Trying to understand different perspectives and working towards solutions that promote peace and stability,
Absolutely.
even in the face of these daunting challenges.
I agree. Lorenzo's predictions remind us that the world is a complex and interconnected place, and the choices we make today have ripple effects that extend far into the future.
We need to approach these global challenges thoughtfully, strategically, and with compassion, even as we brace ourselves for the potential storms ahead. It's a lot to ask, but it feels essential. Yeah, it feels overwhelming, to be honest, like we're standing on a fault line waiting for the earthquake to hit. And the scariest part is we don't know when or where it will strike.
That's the nature of these geopolitical shifts.
Right.
They're complex, unpredictable, and often driven by forces that are beyond our individual control.
So we're just powerless.
Well, not exactly. I mean, that doesn't mean we're powerless.
Okay.
Understanding the potential scenarios, recognizing the warning signs, and making informed choices can make a real difference.
Okay, so as we wrap up our deep dive into Lorenzo's predictions, what's his final message? What does he want people to take away from all of this?
His final message is this: 2025 is a geopolitical earthquake.
Okay.
Some countries will rise, some will fall, and by the end of the year, the world will not look the same.
Wow.
Those who aren't prepared will be blindsided.
That's a powerful statement. It feels like a call to action.
It is. He's urging us to wake up, pay attention to the events unfolding around us, and take responsibility for our own future.
So don't just sit back and wait for things to happen. Be proactive, be informed, and be prepared to adapt to a rapidly changing world.
Exactly. And that means engaging in critical thinking, questioning the narratives we're being fed, and seeking out diverse perspectives.
Right.
We can't afford to be complacent or passive in the face of these challenges.
Lorenzo's predictions might seem bleak,
Yeah.
but maybe there's a silver lining. Maybe this is the wake-up call we need to start building a more resilient, more equitable, and more peaceful world.
I think that's a powerful way to frame it. We have an opportunity to learn from the mistakes of the past, to recognize the interconnectedness of our global community, and to make choices that lead to a more sustainable and harmonious future.
So even amidst all this uncertainty and potential upheaval, there's still room for hope.
Absolutely. There's always room for hope, for innovation, and for the human spirit to triumph over adversity.
This has been a wild ride exploring the potential twists and turns that 2025 might hold. I encourage our listeners to take this information to heart, continue to do their own research, and stay engaged in the unfolding story of our world. It's a story that we're all writing together.
And remember, knowledge is power. The more we understand the forces at play, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the challenges and seize the opportunities that lie ahead.
Until next time, stay informed, stay curious, and stay connected.